those.
Yeah. But we are streaming right now. We just gotta wait a few more seconds, make sure everything goes clear and good. And all right, guys, guess what? It is Saturday, January 25th, 2020. And if any of you guys have been watching the impeachment crap thing that's been going on, I'm sorry for your loss because you can never get that time back again. And with that, Ed, why don't you tell them what you got for this week? And yeah, let's learn.
All right, thank you for joining us again. We appreciate it. And we are also, too, beside what I've got up on there, we're celebrating our 400th video episode. And this is only 200 that we've done, not including the ones I did prior. So, but anyhow, I wanted to get into a couple of things tonight. I got emails from people, trying to defend people, and it's really disturbing when you try to talk to people and they don't comprehend the reality. And I'm talking the real reality. Because when your kids are kidnapped and held for ransom, and like I said, I always find it interesting, people say, I'm going to go pray to God. And, no disrespect to the religious people, but I always say, who's God, what God, why is there a God, and why are you doing it to a God? Because God is run by the Queen of England. That's your King James Bible that tells you, it's up to you to deal with this stuff. And it's up to you, not them. And so this is the point that people are not comprehending, what's really going on in the real world. Everybody wants to live in this fantasy world. And that's what they do. Oh, God's going to save me. God's going to do this. This is what's going to happen. Something's going to save me. And it's like, folks, if you don't save yourself, you don't do this to protect yourself, that's the point, And then people say, well, they stole my kids. Well, what do you mean they stole your kids? Do you own your kids? Well, what do you mean by that? Well, did you ever follow the paperwork to claim your kids that are yours? Is it your bloodline? Because remember, the state is claiming them as their kids because you gave the authority to the state to take them when you registered that child with the state. And see, and that's where I'm looking for this, but I'm going to get into this point soon if I find it, if not, too bad. But the state, a lawyer could only represent a corporation. And so when your child's registered with the state and you give your authority over to the state, now your child's owned by the Bar Association. Bar Association is still run and controlled by the Queen of England. I don't care what you people try to explain to the average person or the average man and woman, because the person is an inanimate object. When people tell me, I was talking to people today, and they're going, person, and it's like, who's person? What is the person? And they're going, well, I'm talking about the person, me, the person. I said, no, the person doesn't exist, so you don't have a right. You're not talking person. A person does not exist. And that's the one thing, is make sure that you comprehend that a person does not exist. I ask people to read this stuff. I pass them the information. And then we've got, these other people out there in these groups that are saying that we're saving children, and they got their videotapes up there, and they're still killing everybody to register, talk to an attorney. Attorneys can only represent a corporation, so when you give your rights over to attorney, you have no rights. You're saying that the lawyer gets to dictate to you if they want to put you in jail, kill you, hang you, whatever they want to do. And that's a real fact. It's not a joke. I mean, we are living this reality today. And lawyers can only, and that's what I was looking for, the code on it, but I'll put it up sometime tonight on it if I don't get it. And because I want to put the code up there, so that way you get what the law says, that attorney can only represent a corporation. And so that is the one thing. And, if everybody keeps going, well, I'm a nonprofit, and I have these rights. When you're a nonprofit, you have no rights. Because I can file on your nonprofit and take your rights away and put you in jail. You'll go, no, you can't. An individual company, business, nonprofit identity, health insurance insurers, offer group or individual health insurance. Coverage may be required to participate in a federal health insurance program created under the Act and amendments made by the Act. The Federal Health Insurance Program expands all acts and such amendments and thereof shall be no penalty or fine imposed on such insurer choosing to participate. And this is 42 U.S.C. 1818115. So when you're going to participate in this stuff, you're giving your body over to them. You have no rights unless you put it in writing. This is the point that people don't get. If you don't put it in the writing and you don't have a verbal contract, mainly a written contract, try to stay away from verbal contracts, even though they are lawful and legal. But today's age, they want to rape, rob, and pillage you for the money, and they don't care about that stuff. You have it in paper, then you can start speaking up and have some things. Like I've been posting the structure out all around dealing with the terrorist Obama. Because Obama was born in Hawaii, they claim. Of course, we know he's born in Kenya. We know the real truth. But they're saying he's born in Hawaii. Well, isn't the Hawaiian flag, isn't that the British monarch flag? It's not an American flag. And under Title 28USC3002, the federal government is the British government. That's where I just don't comprehend how people don't see how the writing's on the wall or what's going on with the truth. So, this lady, I got this video sent to me from some people, and they're like, yeah, this lady's been, lost her kids. She's going through this trauma, and it's like, I sent her stuff, but, if the woman doesn't want to stand up and do something for herself, and she's all crying and whining, well, they have the evidence. They're not doing anything. Hey, don't you read the law? They can't do anything. They're not the law. They might have evidence of what, who, what, why, and how. That's where I always come across, God. Who's God? What God? Why is there a God? Is your God better than my God? Is my God better than yours? Well, the way I look at it, my God is the treaties, the Indian native treaties, and the Constitution. That gives me rights. God doesn't give me no rights. A book from the Bible from England gives me no rights. The monarchy gives you no rights. And people go, I'm going to go pray to God. Okay, go pray to the devil. Because that's what you're doing. I've been there, you've been there, you always ask, you pray, you did all this stuff, and where's God? When it comes down to it, it's really that simple. This is the other point that I try to explain this to people. And I'll get into the title, because I put up the human trafficking on yesterday's, last week's stuff, and I'll put it on again. Excuse me. But William Jefferson Clinton signed, March 3rd, 1997, executive order defining capital for the federal budgetary, including capital for the federal government itself or economy at large, ownership by the federal government. Remember, the federal government is the British government, the monarch, the Queen of England. The federal government that you think in the United States is still run by the Queen of England. It's not American. That's why Donald Trump just went through this hell, because he never gave the Queen respect. He didn't do what he was told. So you remember Schiff and all these Schiff. Schiff owns the bank, one of the banks of England. Is knowing what the real truth compared to the fantasy that people want to live. And some people say I'm rude about that, but no, it's the truth. What fantasy are you living in? That's like the Tooth Fairy. That's fantasy. Christmas, Halloween is all fantasy. Remember, Christmas was developed and created by, 1841 by Macy's Department Store. New York City. New York City is, that's right, still owned by the Queen of England, the Vatican, not part of the United States, so we the people. So that's what stuns me when people do this stuff. They can't comprehend what the truth is. And, they want to do all this stuff, but they don't want to do anything. I want these rights. Well, if you're a Native American, and Native does not mean Indian, and they already proven that, and that's in the 14th Amendment. And I've had that. We put the law out on it. And so that is the biggest part about it, is putting out the real truth of the circumstances here. And this is what's so disturbing, is how people don't comprehend this real fact that we're dealing with right now today. Because when people are claiming that, oh, I have rights, well, who owns your rights? Who owns your body? See, do you own your body? Did you ever claim your body? Did you ever claim your rights? Did you ever file for your rights? Did you ever file for yourself? No. See, that's the point. You know, I don't have to do this, like people tell me all the time. I don't have to do this. Well, realistically, folks, I really have to tell you, yes, you do have to do this. Because you're claiming something that you have no rights to. You're claiming that you have a right to your body, but you don't have a right in this country because you didn't claim it to own it. The state owns it. And that's the point. When you register your child or yourself with the state owns you. And that's just the way it really is. This is not a fantasy. This is not a joke. This is what goes on in the real world. Because it is a contract, and that's what these people go by, the real contract that they're going by to rape, rob, and pillage. You know, that's what I just had a conversation, and I got a little frustrated in the walk today I went, and I blew up a little bit in one of the stores in town, and it's like, it really pissed me off, because the mayor supports raping children. The mayor stole my tires off my boat, and everybody's welcoming that. And so that's what the thing that pisses me off, because people will do this shit, and then they expect people to stand up with them, and it's like, what, why, and how? You know? What are you going to do for your children? Nothing, unless you file to own them. If you don't own your child, you have no rights. And we put that paperwork out. We've been talking about that. I've been talking about that for years. You know, it's nothing that I'm not saying is fact. It is all fact. You know, I even have the structure of how to own your child with the state law. It says when you register your child, how the state claims your child. And do people want to claim their child and, you know, accept their children and own them? That's the problem. They don't want to own their child. They don't want responsibility. You know, it's like this one lady, you know, here in Oregon, you know, she's having problems with her kids, and everybody's like, you know, and I'm like, did you file for your child? Did you try to do criminal charges on your child? No. So if you're not filing criminal charges, then what the hell are you doing? See, and they're going, well, the DA has the information. The cops know all this. Remember, the cops do not have an obligation to protect you. The DA cannot file charges because by law, the DA, if it files charges and gets caught, as the actual prosecutor, the DA, he or she goes to prison. But you don't have a right when these things happen, what people think they do. And that's the one thing that people don't comprehend the real truth. You know, they talk about all this stuff with all these people putting this stuff out with the courts. Do any of these other people out there put this stuff out with education? No. Do they teach you how to file the criminal charges to go after these people? And I always love it when people try to tell me, I'm not going to go after them because, you know, I don't want to do that to them. Well, they already did it to you, so they're killing you, so what the hell? So you're just rolling over. Oh, God says to roll over and play dead. God says that I have to turn the other cheek, so I'm not to defend myself. I'm not to fight for my children. I'm not to have the right to educate myself, to educate them, to even make sure they're not set up in these things. You know, and that is the one thing that is coming up. I mean, and, you know, and then it is, I'm glad to see apparently Tennessee is trying to pass a bill to deny gay and lesbians to own children. We tried to do that in Oregon. That was 20 years ago. That was one of Gary's bills, you know, Senator George's bill. We were talking about that way back then. And this is where people don't comprehend how this stuff really works, because if they rape children, it's money. They sell your children, it's money. That's the whole point. It's money. And you got to respect and comprehend this real reality. Raping children is money. They need counselors. They need bedding. They need housing. They need foster care. It's all based on money. The straw man account, the birth certificate account that they owe you. You know, and that is the one thing, you know, and that's the whole point. And see, once you start realizing what the real truth is, instead of the fantasy that, you know, people are living that we need to do this and we need to do that, and it's like you're doing nothing when it comes down to it. You are actually doing nothing to get your children out of this. You are doing nothing to protect your child. See, that's the point. If you're protecting the child, that means you have to read, you have to know the state and federal laws. You have to sit there and comprehend this. And people go, well, that's not my job. Well, if you're the mother, it just sort of hell is your job, because when you registered that child and gave it over to the state, you gave up your rights to your child. You know, and that is the whole point. And remember, police officers are rent-a-cops. They work for a private corporation called the city, county, and state. They don't have lawful or legal authority. They are private contractors. It's that simple. It's that simple. Private contractors. They don't have right. And this is the frustrating point when people don't sit there and file and read this stuff and file your charges and read so that way you know what your rights are. And people say, well, I can't take my kid. Well, yeah, they did, because you register your kid with the state and you gave it over to the state to lawyers. And remember, when you register anything with the state, you give it to the State Bar Association. Each and every state bar association in all states are still controlled and run by the Queen of England, the Vatican. It's never changed. It's not going to change until that way we disband the lawyers. There's over 500,000 and 500,000 lawyers in the United States, rape, robbing, and pillaging to bankrupt this country. And that's their job, to bankrupt this country, to rape the children, to murder people. That's their job. Trust me, I know. They tried to take me out more than once, and I'm still here. Even Judge Branford tried to have me murdered and jailed more than once. So I got YouTube videos up that prove that shit when I told the judge to take a hike. And then they tried to murder me more than once, and they put an all-points bulletin out to shoot to kill. So I had to run around the state for 9 months. So been there, done it. I've lived this stuff, and people say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, no, you got to get out. You got to come to reality, folks, that most people, even in my position, we've done this. We lived it, you know. And I hate it when people sit there and say, "Oh, oh, I've done it too." All right, you've done it too. Where's your evidence? Where is your paperwork? Where's your filings in the courts? Where's your videos? Hearsay is not admissible. Once you realize that hearsay is not admissible, you know, you conquer so much when you start realizing what the real truth is. And you start doing this stuff and, you know, getting it, you know. And that is the one thing you got to realize. They get a paycheck. And so when they get a paycheck, that is the other point. You know, once they get a paycheck, they don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about their own children. Remember, in England, the structure is to give up your child so that way you have a job. And they've been doing that since the 14th century. Children are usually put out on the street when they are, 13 years old in England? Average is 14. Remember, they were doing that in this country and all the time in recent years. Marrying children at 14 years old. Some of the southern states still have it. At 14 years old, a child can get married. I mean, you know, at 16, you start getting a little wiser. Technically, you ain't intelligent until you're mid-20s. But when it comes down to it, most people think we're so smart and intelligent when we're 17, 18 years old. And I was there. I thought the same thing. Until I started stepping out of the projects and learning and listening and paying really attention. You know, and that's the one thing, is that when people start sitting there, that the police are there to protect me. The police are not there to protect you. They are a private corporation that is run for themselves. And it horrifies me when they got this stuff going on in this country. Shop with a cop. Shop with a cop. And it's like, how stupid are people? Shop with a cop. How stupid are you to allow a public servant in your home and to dictate to what's going on in your home? They write everything down. They actually do. They write this stuff down. They make sure it's apparent to the point. You know, and that is the point. You know, it's like now they got this thing called the Retirement Promotion Cemeteries for the England Police Department. And it's like, you know, excuse me, these people don't have a right. They're a public servant, and then they want us to bow to them. Their job is to bow to you. They are a public servant. They are not your boss. They are your employees. Do you comprehend the point of servant? And that is the one thing that when you comprehend the whole point of having a servant and realizing what a servant is, it's like when you have a maid, everybody bitches, oh, the rich people got maids. Well, they have servants. They pay for them. And that's what you do with a public servant, is you pay for them. And then we do have the paperwork up there. When they don't do that, file a conflict of interest statement. Been trying to get people to comprehend that one for some time. You file a conflict of interest statement, especially before you go to jail. See, that is the one thing before you go to jail. And if you start filing the stuff before these things happen, you'll see changes. And that's the one thing that people don't want to see changes. That's what gets to me, because if they did this, they would do that. It's like you got all these groups on Facebook, and most of them are lawyers on Facebook, and people don't get it. They rush to them, and they listen to this stuff, and then they're wondering why nothing's getting done. And all they're doing is selling projects. They're all selling their own projects out there. We're not selling a project. We're educating you how to file the criminal charges on these people, to go after them, to put them in prison. See, these people destroyed my life, so as your Bible says, do unto others you want others to do unto you. I just want to pass the love. They pass the love to me. I just want to pass the love back. That's what your Bible says. See, my Bible is the Constitution and the Native Indian treaties. That's my Bible. They have rights. Your Bible has no rights. Period. You go to your pastor, and I'm a reverend myself, so I know this stuff. And that is the one thing that I comprehend, that this is what goes on, is that people don't comprehend this. All right, well, hopefully we'll get this one on join. And so, but this is the one thing that, when you comprehend what's really going on compared to, what you think it is. So, did you file your paperwork before you went to court? No. And that's the most point. And then when you file your paperwork, did you file it in Washington, D.C.? Did you file it under their administrative rules that they have to go by? No. And I just went through that with somebody a couple of days ago. What does that matter? Why should I go through all that? Why do I have to prove this? See, it's like when your child is kidnapped and held for ransom, you have to prove they were kidnapped and held for ransom. The police department ain't going to be there for you. They don't give a shit. State Attorney General don't give a shit, because the State Attorney General works as a lawyer and works for the Queen of England. All bar attorneys work for the Queen of England. I've got that and proven that. Right now, proving all your taxes are going to the Queen of England and the Vatican. I'm working on the routing numbers so I get that put up. See, this is what the real truth is. We're living in a total lie. Total lie. And that's what you do, is you lie to your children, too. You lie about Christmas. You lie about holidays, Easter. That's all about money. All those days, you got to look at how much income those days bring to the corporation of England, and it does, because all your taxes go to England. That goes back to the 1933 Bankruptcy Act. I mean, how many people have actually read the Bankruptcy Act besides I or, us involved? Seriously, how many of you ever read it? That goes back to saying the United States citizens and nationals. I always love these people going, I'm a national. All right, so you're a national, you're a British subject. No, that does not mean that. It's like, you better do some research. Because, I even read the law where the national says, and I'll go find the law right now, and I'll read you what the actual law of national really is. See, when people say that, oh, that doesn't work, this is what, you got to remember, this is what your judges go by. This is what your attorneys go by. Not what you go by, because you don't count. You got to remember, the cops and you and the clerk, the clerk and the judge and all those people matter what's going on. You don't count when it comes to court. Oh, by the way, I'm going to bring that up here in a minute. See, you don't count. This is the one point that people don't realize. When this shit has the fan, you don't count. Unless you pack that courtroom with 20 or 30 people and they all got cameras and the judge is going to say, you can't videotape in my courtroom. Bullshit, you sure can by law. Supreme Court has said that. And if the judge says that, then you want a conflict of interest statement from him in writing stating why, with the clerk and the bailiff. You want all of them to write a conflict of interest statement. That you want them to prove with their living. That you want them to prove. Somebody tells me that this is the way it is, I'm sorry, I don't believe anybody. I learned that a long time ago. Never trust and believe anybody. Especially a pastor. Especially, somebody in the religious structure. Been there, done it, and also, too, like I said, I'm an ordained registered minister, and I used to be a non-profit until the state of Oregon sent me a letter and says, we're rescinding all your contracts. Oh, that's right, because I went through things by lawful, not legal. I filed that I had rights. So when I filed I had rights, the state says, we got to rescind all your contracts, and that's exactly what the truth is. And see, that's what I'm saying. I'm living and doing what I'm living and proving the truth of what I'm living. See, and this is the one thing that I'm going to read to you here right now. See, this is the one thing that people don't get, and I love it. Statutory. Remember, all your city, county, and states, and all your Oregon state, and your New York state, and your Texas state, and your Tennessee state, those are all statutes. Unless they actually have the Constitution that backs it up, they're all statute codes and administrative rules. So statutory, nationals, 22, the term national of the United States means a citizen of the United States Incorporated, or a person who is, though, not a citizen of the United States. Remember, a person doesn't exist who owes permanent allegiance to the United States, and that is Title 28USC3002, if you don't know the administrative rules on that. And that is both ser juris and, what is that, juris, and or the method acquiring to the national means national. Nationality means national, too. And you got these other people going, oh, you need to find out what your nationality is and file on it. And I'm like, God, you guys don't get this. You're not filing to own yourself. You're not claiming that you're free. Now you're claiming you have a nationality, so whatever nationality you're claiming whatever you came from, now you're still a British slave. You'd have no rights. You gave up your rights because you're claiming a nationality or national or citizen. That's called a title of nobility. Look it up, a title of nobility, When you take a title of nobility, that's why when people say, Ed, you could do this or you could do that, I don't want your title of nobility. I don't want to take that claim. I want to be American, native. I want to go hunting and fishing and feed myself. I don't want to ask for permission, from some state public servant that I have to go to the bathroom. And people say, well, that's a little reaching. Well, when it comes down to it, don't you do that when you went to school? You had to have some state employee before you go to the bathroom. You think it's changed? It depends when you're at a job. When you're at a job, don't you have to ask your boss when you have to go to the bathroom? Oh, what a reality check that one just hit, huh? See, I worked with, employers that, we didn't have to ask. We just went and did it so long as our work was caught up. But those were people that, that were honorable. But today, I don't know about employees today or employers today, because I've been out of the employment structure for 15 years myself. But it's knowing this stuff, what, why, and how it works. And so when you get to know how it works, that's where you have to start standing up for your rights, your children's rights. And that means you need to read this stuff. If your children was kidnapped and held for ransom, taken, remember, ransom is the birth certificate insurance bond. Wherever state you were born and whatever county that is, that's your county note. And you can always go to the Treasury and look up your birth certificate bond in the Treasury, and you can look at the dollar bills that they put out and match your numbers to the dollar bills. Yes, it does exist. People will tell you, oh, no, it don't exist. Don't listen to people. Read it. Get off your ass. Turn off your damn TV. Turn off your favorite bullshit program where you put down your favorite gay boy. No offense to some. But watch it, learn it, because if you don't learn it, nobody else is going to teach it to you. Because if you're not willing to look at it for yourself, to believe it with your own eyes. Because I'm a guy that I grew up, seeing is believing. You know, I grew up in politics, so hearsay doesn't mean shit. You know, hearsay is lack of evidence, it's lack of words. You know, you're saying you can hearsay evidence. How can you hearsay evidence when, you know, if somebody really committed a crime, what is the crime? You know, if your child was kidnapped and held for ransom, now when they did that, did they actually file criminal charges? Did you actually ask the court to see the affidavit, the wet ink affidavit? Remember, when a child is taken in custody, they have to have an affidavit from another living man or woman. A police officer cannot write an affidavit. A clerk cannot write an affidavit. A caseworker cannot write an affidavit. A judge cannot write an affidavit. Those are all conflicts of interest because they get paid by the same corporation. So when they get paid by the same corporation, that's a conflict of interest. And so when they're doing this is what you need to file a conflict of interest statement. That's why I always suggest before you go to court, you want to know what court you're going into. You know, you have to send a letter going, what jurisdiction are you calling me? What jurisdiction is this court? You know, is this, you know, jurisdiction of taxes, just jurisdiction of, you know, criminal charges, or what's your jurisdiction? See, you have to ask these things. It's your responsibility. You're supposed to be an adult. You're supposed to grow up from being a child to become an adult. And that's the one thing that, you know, we don't get this education. We're not taught this reality anymore. I mean, they haven't been teaching this stuff in school for at least 40 years that I personally am aware of. And I've been personally aware of for 40 years that they don't teach it. So that's the point of how do we know what they're going to do for you? And let me read this so you comprehend. I'm going to be putting it up on the site again tonight. But remember, rampant, excuse me, get to my breath. Disagreement for the oath of office has become the norm. So the disrespect of the oath of office has become the norm. And so we have this paperwork that you can file on them because they're doing what they call a democracy. We hold our hands together. So if you can't break the chain, remember playing that in school? You know, you can't break the chain. You know, so you went across, if you don't break the chain, you can't get through. And that's exactly what they're doing to you right now today. So, and if you type in the Oregon State or the National Bar or the American Bar Association, you'll still see it's owned by the Queen of England. Because the State Bar is England's own British accreditation registration of its members, considered to be nobles. And don't forget, remember, because going, oh, I prayed to the Lord. Well, the Lord is the Lord of a British structure. You know, isn't the Lord, you know, Kate Middleton's husband? You know, learn what these words mean. You know, I mean, these things are out and stuff. I play this in the movies, and people just, the movies, they don't think it doesn't exist when you're living it, and it does exist. So when you are claiming that you're a citizen or national, you are a subject of a foreign state, and that is the British government. So you're giving your rights over to them for them to protect. That's why when you go in and you say, I need a lawyer, the lawyer is there to protect you under the structure of the Queen of England. His job is to protect them, not you. And trust me, I've argued with many lawyers over the last 30 years. I've watched people lose their homes and stuff, and I'm trying to explain to people this is what we need to do. Oh, the lawyer says to do this, and then they wonder why they lost their home, why they lost their kids. And then they come back, and it's like, well, didn't you file this? Didn't you do that? Well, the lawyer said this. I said, that's your problem. Third party is inadmissible in court. Hearsay ruling. See, and that's the one thing. And see, like New York State is represented, just the state corporation is represented by 100 lawyers from 21 states because New York City is still run by the Vatican. So they have the lawyers come in and do their profession coming in to keep that corporation going under the Queen of England. And you got to realize, this is a real fact, because the American Bar Association, when that was founded in August 21, 1871, or 1878, let me correct myself. Remember, American Bar Association, American, that was the British term. And I've got people that, say, don't say American, Ed, because American still means you're a British subject. Well, I got conflicts on that one because the British subjects started using American when they put the American Bar Association. But prior to that, we were called Americans. What they used to refer to the natives as. And let's not forget that the Christians came over and raped and murdered the natives, and they called it, we got to do that. We got to civilize these people in the name of God. In the name of the Bible, we got to civilize these savages. Still today, it's the same thing, you go in, these people going, well, you didn't do what I think you should do, so you need to be corrected. What about having to respect one another? So any other points so you comprehend, we do have this, and I'll post this, later tonight. The courts are free if you are a Native American. A corporation is not a citizen within the meaning, and this is what they're trying to say. But remember, the structure of this goes to the thing of a citizen, and right after they did the Scott Dredd case, they incorporated citizen as a slave, because they used to be citizen prior to that, meant that you had rights, and then when they did the Dred Scott case, they incorporated citizen with the large and small c in the same structure, so that way you became a slave unless you filed your rights as a native. And I do have that, and I've sent some people out that information. I'm walking through them, giving them some ideas that how they could make their own native filings. But they got to prove it. They have to prove their bloodline. And that's what I've been talking to several people here in the last 2 weeks about, is you have to go back and prove your bloodline. And they're going, well, I can do it by DNA, 1, 2, 3, or whatever it is. I'm going, no. Don't get involved in these DNA tests. You want to go to your birth certificate. You want to go to your mommy and daddy. You want to go to your grandparents. And you want to chase the death certificates as well as the funeral homes or wherever they were buried, whatever evidence you have. Because you go by their evidence, you don't know if it's misleading or not. So prove it by your own bloodline. Once you prove it by your own bloodline, now you got standing. Then you know who you are. So when people say, you need to know what you are, it's to stay away from some of these people out there that are doing this stuff, because you'll find out, and I've talked to several people that, shoved out, even several $1,000s to some of these people. They're going to help protect my children. They're going to help me give me my children back. And it's like, did they ever file a criminal complaint? No, they didn't do that. And I said, well, are you filing criminal charges on them? What do you mean? And I'm like, what do you mean, what do I mean? Don't you know that they took your kid? Didn't you file the criminal charges? They kidnapped and held your kid for ransom. That's a federal crime. People say, well, they can get away with it. No, they cannot get away with it. If the child was not injured, they cannot get away with it. But you can't go to the state attorney general. You can't go to your local district attorney, because your local district attorney don't give a fuck about you. Let me tell you, your local district attorney and your local cops, they don't give a shit about you. They'll rape, rob, and steal your own home. Trust me, I know that. The cops have raided my home when I was in ICU and stole my court papers I was getting ready to file in federal court in Washington, D.C., because I'm going after them in a different direction now. But I had it all set up that once it was filed, these bastards were going to prison. And they knew it. That's why they robbed my house. They even stole my other property that I had in my home, my money. They stole my money out of my home, and I went to complain about it, and they're like, yeah, right, prove it. My neighbors are telling me when I'm in ICU, the cops are in your home. And I'm like, well, would you write an affidavit? And they say, no, we're not going to lose our home. We're not going to lose our job for you. Yeah, let me tell you about Americans. Let me tell you about you people. So when it comes down to it, when you stand up and you see something, what are you going to do? When you witness something, are you going to stand up for that man or woman or that child when you witness something? See, people got to really think about that one because, people do think about that. What am I going to lose? Am I going to lose my home? Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to lose this? Am I going to lose that? I mean, that's the real world and the real reality in the real world, folks. Most of us do know that in the real world. I've never been bashful. When I sat there and watched the criminal thing happen, I always stood up. And also, too, when I was a rent-a-cop, I used to write them up and file them. And they used to come attack me on that one sometimes. But it's like, no, I witnessed something, I spoke up. But most people don't want to sit there and speak up. People are too terrified. So, and then you wonder why the kids are being, harassed, raped, and murdered. Remember, if a child's raped, it's money because counseling. Then they bill it off on the Social Security structure. So that way they can get it done by that structure because they're making the money. I got people say, well, Kate Brown is going to help me. Let me tell you, Kate Brown destroyed my family. Kate Brown tried to put me in federal prison in 2006. Kate Brown tried to have me taken out more than once with Rob Yvette, the former Lincoln County District Attorney, because they put me in jail and tried to kill me in jail more than once. It's all a fact. I've died 13 times, and I know these people are going, what? But see, the point is that you got to realize not to play these games because if you people start standing together instead of, being so far apart that you're not living in reality and you're so self-centered, it's all about me, 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 me. Once you get over the point that it's not about you and it's about we, the people, and don't forget the Social Security Act, and this is one thing that I watch people put up. The Social Security Act was put in by, William Jefferson Clinton. That was the structure, and let me go find his law he passed, because that was called human trafficking to own your child. And so this is the part when you register your child, this is how they get away with taking your child when you register them. And this is not a joke, folks. This is what's going on right now today. This was reality. Let me go find his deal of when you sign your kids over, because once you start doing this and you file for your rights, so make sure when you file your rights, make sure that if you can't get it published in the papers, make sure it's filed on the bulletin board of the police department, your libraries, most of all, your museums. Museums will tell you, we can't take that. And it says, well, isn't that museums are supposed to take record for law, and isn't that what you're paid for? They'll grumble, but that's what they're paid for, so they know it. Excuse me. But you have to come and educate yourself in knowing how these people are paid, how the public funding is there for that. And I'm going to read you the other part here on the 14th Amendment coming up. Let me find this thing on Clinton. Because once you, and also too, no officer of a court, officers, that doesn't mean just the cop. That means the clerk. That means the dishwasher at the hospital. That means the dishwasher at the jail. Salary, not an inmate. That's the point, is knowing what these things mean and how it works. Because if you don't stand up, and then also, too, before I'm going to get to human trafficking, I'm going to get this one here. I want to read these both to you. So I want to make sure that you folks comprehend how this really works. And I mean, and I'm going to do this and get this to your head, I hope. Human Capital by William Jefferson Clinton, Executive Order 13037, March 3rd, 1997, B, clearly states that your child and you are the own and ownership. Remember, ownership means your ship owned, your vessel owned by the federal government or some other identity, defense or non-defense, capital. They wrote this so anybody from a foreign country can claim that they own you unless you file to own yourself. If you're not a lawyer, that's the point. Everybody says, I'm not a lawyer, I can't comprehend it. Well, you don't have to be a lawyer to read it. You just have to be able to have an education and read it and learn what the words mean. If you don't know what the words mean, then look them up in the dictionary and the law dictionary. You know, and then if you look at this thing, and I love the way he wrote this too, the executive order says that it clearly states a non-injured party with an affidavit. Not an injured party with an affidavit. So if you have an affidavit and you're the injured party and you're claiming your child, oh, this law doesn't apply to you because you're not human capital because you claim to own yourself. Not an injured party with an affidavit. This is what it says in the law, or the statute code, I mean. And that's the thing you got to comprehend. Not an injured party. And then let me get back over here. 5 U.S.C. Code, Chapter 54, Human Capital Performance Fund. F-U-N, not F-U-N-D, F-U-N. Remember, it's a fund. It's a chess game. It's a fun game that we're playing with you folks, and that's what it comes down to. You know, and that is the whole thing, is that when you have an affidavit and you're claiming yourself, so when you go to court and you have an affidavit and you own yourself, and the lawyer and attorney can only represent, and people go, oh, Ed, you're missing the point of a lawyer. I would like to see that point. You know, I've been in and out of the system for 40 years. I spent 15 years at the House and Senate of Oregon, and been around it and involved with lawyers and attorneys. Sorry, they're all the same. Been there, done it. You know, I spent the years, I watched it. I sat there and tried to analyze it and proved it different. It didn't work. See, that's the whole point. It didn't work when you tried to prove it, and that was the point. But when you had an affidavit and you proved criminal charges on these people, they run like hell. You know, that's like when Kate Brown called the military on the organized Republican Party because they weren't doing what she wanted them to do. This was 2 years ago. This is nothing new. Democracy. You're going to do what we tell you. We run the country. That's what they're telling you. We work for the Queen of England, called your Roman Catholic Church, called your Bible, your religion. And people always tell me, Ed, you're so hard on religion. Well, I'm just reading you the truth. How can you not see the truth? I mean, that's the point. That, you know, it's black and white. I can't sit there and claim something that is, you know, fictional, and then try to sit there and analyze something that the words tell me what it means. When the words tell me what it means, I have to do that. Now, Kate Brown is going after the deal to eliminate the electoral college for the state of Oregon. So that way the popular vote takes over. And the popular vote, remember, your election machines are reprogrammed by the Democratic Party. Each elected employee, all your electoral machines in your county are already programmed. And the county clerk gets to decide who's going to win. Trust me, been there, done it, lived it in 2 elections myself personally. Maybe I'll do it again. I haven't done that in a while. I think I'm going to throw my name in the ring again. Might as well have some fun. You know, because, I mean, you know, we got this guy, you know, called Claire Hall. I've known Bill Hall for 30 years. I just have a problem calling him Claire. But if I don't call him Claire, they're telling me, oh, you could go to jail for not calling Bill Claire. Well, I don't know. Isn't that impersonating, isn't that a name fraud? You know, you're claiming another name for somebody else, that you're claiming a name that wasn't given to you by your Christian name that gives you a right? So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of things. This is what democracy does. Rape, rob, and pillage. We'll change the stuff because we got the numbers against you. You know, so when a crime exists, it must be an injured party, corpus delicti. And that is, you know, you could go by Sharif versus Cohen, and that is 481F945. And see, this is a constitutional right. And remember, your treaties supersede the Constitution, and your constitutions have to match the treaties of the native blood of the soil. And I was just on talking to somebody the other day that was going on their talk show, and they got it when I was talking about the native blood, and they're like, holy shit. And it was like, you know, we've talked about it for 5 years, and I'm just glad the light finally went off. Because a corpus electi, that means the injured man or woman. And if there's an injured child, like what some of these people are going through, that their kids have been kidnapped and held for ransom. Well, if you are the bloodline mother or father and you file to own that child, now it's a corpus delicti because you have the lawful right to represent that child. And then the other point you want to file in the court going, how does the judge, show me the evidence that says you own my child? And people go, well, I talked to the judge and I talked to the attorney. I said, you guys are stupid. And I'll call you stupid right to your face. You're stupid. You don't put it in writing. Hearsay is inadmissible in court. Get that through your head. Because people say, well, it's like a contract, a verbal contract. Yeah, it's still a contract. It's still admissible in court. But it depends on who the jury is going to believe. And if you have it in writing, or if you have an audio tape of it, or pictures, or, the cameras today and phones today are set up, you can go into court and, put it in your top pocket and have it recorded. Trust me, I know I've gone into court many times in the past and had people recording that, and the people have been kidnapped and held for ransom. One guy ended up they tried to put him in prison for videotaping, because when Judge Branford tried to put me in prison to kill me, and then the judge, and I got this on YouTube video. You can type Lincoln County Sheriff comes out and says he doesn't have to have a warrant. It's on the YouTube video. The cop comes out and says, I don't need a warrant, or I can arrest anybody I want. And this is the point. And then when I try to talk to people about going back and filing these charges, do this, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to do this now. And it's like, so we just allow these people to get away with it. And then you wonder why your children and all this shit happens, because you're allowing it. When people are not standing together, I think it's called, it's supposed to be we the people. What happened to the word we? It's not about you. It's not about your child. It's about we. All of us. We're supposed to be under one roof. And all these self-centered idiots out there always gets to me, about me. Well, then that's why you wonder why there's nobody there in court when you go there and you can't fight, because you're not fighting and helping somebody else. And remember, it does not make a deal, because if you're claiming you're an inhabitant, and this is the other point, and this is under the 14th Amendment in the Supreme Court case of Elks versus Winkins, Nebraska, 1884. If you're claiming you're an inhabitant, you have no rights. You're a slave of the British government of the United States Corporation, Title 28USC3002. It says it right here. That's what I'm saying. It's people, you got to read these court cases and read the words. Don't interpret it, and don't listen to somebody else. Now, the other point, what I have done when I filed my criminal complaints, I filed them in downtown London in City and Water, Utility District. And that's one of the places you file your complaints to, because that's where your court systems out of England are based out of. Sewer and water. Remember, sewer. And that's the way they do it. These things have a purpose the way they're written. And so that is the one thing that, people say, well, I have a servitude and I'm honoring God. And like I say, who's God? What God? Why is there a God? Why is your God better than my God? See, we go into religion. See, everybody has the right to free religion, and that's what the Constitution enacts and gives you that right. I have the same right to free religion, but my religion is not your religion, because my religion is the treaties and the Constitution. I don't believe in a foreign book that comes from another country. I was on the phone with people, all this week going, you died. Did you see God? Did you go through this? And I'm like, not everybody goes through that. And I wasn't convinced and been mentally brainwashed by TV and radio to think that stuff. And that is the one thing you got to realize. And the other point, too, is, yes, I do have a case still pending in the IRS and with the marshals and all that. And that's the one thing. I haven't heard back from anybody in 6 months on the case. Because they're trying to figure out what, why, and how they're going to try to probably come after me, because, I put together a deal that, it nails them. And you got to remember, that's the way you got to put together your affidavits. And the main thing is, when you hire an attorney, you have no rights. The attorneys will lie to you. They lie to their children. They'll lie to you. So, and that's the one thing you got to comprehend, what they're going to be doing to protect you. You know, are they going to be protecting you? Because the lawyers, when you take an oath, they're supposed to protect your constitutional oath. I have never seen one lawyer do that yet. You know? And this is the one thing. It goes back to the Supreme Court, Jones versus Termer, 89F SUP P 1226, the Privilege and Immunities Clause of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment protects very few rights because neither the incorporations of the bill rights nor the protection of the rights of the individual, listen to the word, citizen. See? And that's the point. You get to know what these words mean. Federal government is the British government still enacted. That's your Congress right now today. That's why Schumer and all these ones went after Trump, Pelosi, because they support the British government. They're not American people at all. Pelosi's always going, pray to God, pray to God, pray to God. We can put Trump in prison. Pray. We need you to pray to God so we can put Trump into prison. She's been on national news saying that. And then she's been on national news, and we played that last week. You know how Nancy Pelosi says, oh, this is how you slander somebody. This is how you protect, you get somebody to have the media believe it, and then once the media says it, then you can start slandering people. And that's exactly how they get away with it. I know. I've lived it myself in this county of Lincoln County and the state of Oregon. And I've lived it throughout the state. Been there, done it. This ain't no joke. They do this. You know, they slandered me so bad they destroyed my family. You know, and you know what it's like, you know, somebody starts saying somebody so much, you know, and you're a woman, you start believing the other side. You don't believe your husband or your mate, you know that. And it's sad. This is what we're living. This is a fact that happens, and it happens to men and women. Shouldn't just say women, because men done the same thing on, you know, women have had the same thing done to them. So, and this is the one thing, if you go into the IRS form, Exhibit 05.51 on YouTube, and you can type in exhibit, and I'll come up too, where the IRS says taxes are voluntary. I do recommend, and we have it up, it's a video called Theft by Deception. And you got to realize that if your income, and if you actually read the tax code, it's interest and dividends. And when they tried to put the tax code in, that was never adopted. Ever, ever, ever. And these people will lie to you and say, oh, yes, it's been adopted. It's never been adopted. These people lie. Because it's never been adopted, because even in 1796 and 1789, all taxes are unconstitutional. That was done in the War of 1812, says all taxes are unconstitutional. And that was even in the structure when they did a corporation after we won the war with the British government. Because remember, the South, you know, fought the rebel flag fought for the British government. They weren't Americans. We want slavery. We want taxes. And the North says, we don't want taxes. We're not going to pay to hunt and fish and feed ourselves. And don't forget, folks, all you fools out there that are supporting a carbon tax, you're a fool, because a carbon tax is breathing air, and you are a breathing instrument. So you're sitting there stating that, oh, I need to charge yourself. You know. And see, this is the one thing that this one lady's got posted on her structure with these lawyers with conflict of interest. And it's like, it amazes me. Did you ever file the conflict of interest statement on them? Did you actually file the criminal charges on their bank accounts on them? Did you actually know what you filed on them? And then when you go on to these people and you ask these people for help and pleading to these people without filing the charges, you ain't going to get nowhere. And that's a fact, you know. And DHS is a corporation of the British government. Do your research. You know, and that's the one thing. And is that, you know, the one lady quoting, yeah, referees cannot use summaries of the points and authorities. relied upon, and that's the one thing you got to realize. They are relying upon that because you didn't question it. People throw out this stuff and they're not putting out the evidence. They're not putting out what, why, and how. And then that's the one thing when you require communications of writing. Did you send a certified registered letter to them? Did you notify the newspapers and why the newspapers are protecting them? Oh, that's right, the newspapers have, because they're a 501c3, and if they did that, they wouldn't be able to get their tax write-offs. Once in a while, they might do that, but I don't know. The Oregon Observer, I haven't talked to Ed Snook in a long time. He used to write up stuff, so I don't know if he still does that anymore or not. A couple of these newspapers out there, but see, this is the one thing is that when people are reading this stuff and they're going by their guidelines, you're putting words in that you have no certification in, and this is the one thing that when you're doing this and you didn't go through the bar, and I have the bar structure up if you really want to know the truth. And remember, and this is the one thing is when it comes to the DHS in the state of Oregon, I'm going to use that as a reference. When it comes to, juveniles, remember, juvenile is owned by the lawyers. It says that by Oregon State administrative rules, when you register your child, it's owned by the lawyers. So, yeah, they got this stuff up, and they could have all this stuff and prove, play this Ponzi scheme on you is what it really is. You never filed to own your bloodline. You didn't serve it. You didn't make it public. You didn't make sure that people were sitting there standing up and going and asking questions. How come they got your kid, your bloodline? Why did they steal your property? Did you ever file for your property? And that's the one thing that people are not comprehending. You have to file to own your property. I mean, it's me. I've got it filed, and I got it filed with the City of Police Department, or the City of Toledo Police Department, the Mayor, Rod Cross. You come on I might shoot you. I have a right to defend my soil. I have a right to defend my life. And they know I carry. I mean, it's been known. I've publicly carried in this county that I've been for over 30 years. Or concealed. I don't have to get a permit. Because the Constitution gives me a right. Now, if I was elected a public employee, yes, I have to get a permit. If I'm a registered church member, I better have one. See, that goes back to the Roman Catholic Church. That goes back to the Queen of England. Churches are run by the Queen of England. When you pay your state and federal income tax, it goes to the Queen of England. When you put money in that church coffer, it goes to the Queen of England. Remember, it's all nonprofit, tax write-off. Have you ever read the structure of a tax write-off to nonprofit agencies? And this is the one thing, when these people come to your home, you don't allow them in your home. Go get a real warrant. You need a wet ink warrant. A stamp. I mean, I've been there where they kidnapped and held me in for jail where, Branford said this, that, and the other thing, and then they come in and throw this piece of paper in the holding tank they got me in and said, well, now you've been served. Well, my warrant has to be served beforehand, and you're allowed 7 days to respond to a warrant by law before they can take you into custody. Law. That's their law. And as I said, is read it. When you're putting this, and this is the one thing, the money that's kept for DHS, as long as DHS is involved, yes, that's called your birth certificate bond. They're going to be doing this, rape, rob, and pillaging. Raping children is money. They need counselors. How do you get a counselor? Raping children, causing problems in a family. Oh, now you're a drug and alcoholic. Oh, you're not responsible. Because you say you're an alcoholic and a drug addict, you're not responsible. When you don't show you're not, when you show you're not responsible, that's where you have your problems. It's called maintaining your responsibility. Don't be an asshole in public. And this is the one thing when you got to remember when they go to your churches and stuff, they're going, your church member, your priest doesn't work for you. The priest ain't like it was, like it was in the 70s where they might stand up for you. Today, your priest doesn't give a shit about you because he's worried about making good responses and good guidelines with the chief. Police chief of your community or the sheriff of your community. I know that. We used to have that with the pastors in my town in Toledo, especially with Pastor Charles. He was always good with the chief of police. When we went through the problems we had, he was telling the chief up. They worked together, and that's when the chief was trying to put me in prison. Went after my ex-fiancée, made all the problems, destroyed my family, and caused these problems. And then you wonder why these things happen. This is what they do for a living. They don't give a shit about you or the children. Remember, when it comes to the Roman Catholic Church or, people who believe in Christians, Muslims, any religion, so long as they control you. And that's the one thing that people don't comprehend in this reality. So long as they can control you, they got control. They don't care about you. So, and this is the one thing that when it comes to making sure that you have a bond, file your bond on the kid. File to own that child. If you don't file to own your bloodline, you don't have a right to that bloodline. Because the minute that you filed and you didn't rescind your contract when you registered your kid with the state, did you? You never rescinded the contract with the state of Oregon or whatever state you're from when you registered your child and gave the state over to the Bar Association. And that's the one thing, is why the hell are you giving your kid a Social Security number when it's not 18 years old? Because the Social Security law and act, if you actually read it, says you can't have one until you're 18. So they get you into committing racketeering, fraud, and extortion, and this is how they come after you and say you committed IRS theft. And this is how they do it, because they come after you and threaten you, because they're the ones who sit there and walk you into this stuff. They know it. When a cop tells you they don't know this stuff, they lie. Especially when any public employee, they lie. They know what they're doing. Trust me, they go to courses for this all the time. I know. I was a public employee. When I won my last election, they wanted me to go to the democracy courses. They go train me to be a Democrat and to do what I'm told. Well, I've never been a good slave. I've never been a good religious, individual or, man, because I don't believe in religion. I believe in the rights of man and women. And it's like, the one thing I'm thinking about throwing my name in a ring, but one thing I'm going to do is if a girl's raped or her mother's raped, give them a knife. Let them teach the raper a lesson. That is the point. And so that's the one thing that, and then if you want to do this, we'll set up a deal. I'll send you stuff. We'll go through of how to file the criminal charges. That is the one thing. We'll walk you through the criminal charges, but I want to make sure that you read this stuff that I'm just sending you and providing to you, because if you're not reading it to learn how to do it, okay? So that's the point, that you have to learn to see how this is, done. You have to read the stuff so that way if you go to court, you know how to tell a judge off. And so, that's the whole point. That is the one thing that you need to comprehend, how these things go. And when you read filing the criminal charges, then you have to read, now, whatever happened to the child. Now, let me explain that to you, too. If none of you are familiar with the Will and Pamela Gaston case, I was there. Not only that, I am their minister. I did the marriage certificate and some ceremony for Will and Pamela Gaston before they murdered Pamela. Will died 3 or 4 years ago. He won $500 million lawsuit. All of us gave her time in life, and it wasn't just me. There was a dozen people involved in this. And everybody said, well, when we win, we'll take care of you. Well, when we won, and then Will says, well, I'm not going to go collect the money because I'm not going to have them come after my family. And then his daughters came after me his older daughters, they were shocked that Will didn't go get the money because, Will's like, I'm not going to have him go after family. But the kids, they knew that if Will didn't do this, they knew they were going to go after him. They knew this. And see, this is the one thing that you got to give, that is the one thing that you got to comprehend this. It pissed me off that Will didn't do this stuff. And we got him into the Oregon State House and Senate. If it wasn't for State Senator Gary George, and I put this up, and if you want, I'll send you even the videotapes that Senator Gary George even explained how to do this. This goes back in time, And so, that's the whole point. So, this is the one thing, it's like, when Gary went through this, when we went through this with people, and we tried to explain this to people, we opened up the Senate floor, we had people testify. Peter Courtney went after us, Kate Brown, and everybody went after us, said, oh, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. It's like Gary opened up the floor. He was heavily attacked, The people didn't get, it really pissed me off because, Gary was one of those guys who, in Lincoln County, in his district, when he was senator, he gave out over 1,500 Christmas, 2,000 Christmas trees, several years in a row. Did people thank him, write him letters? No, these self-centered bastards, bitches. It's all about me, and, the guy is sitting there protecting your family, and it's like, something didn't go wrong, but you didn't want to learn. I'm going to go to the Bible. God's going to save me. Well, I always say to people, and I'm not trying to be down and disrespectful to people on this, but where's your God? If your God's going to save you, how come God hasn't saved you? Shit, I've been dead 13 times. I've been shot in the head. My neck's been broken twice. I got crushed bones and everything else. God didn't save me. I know the people did, but it sure wasn't God. The last time I had, I got put on steel plate and shocked like Frankenstein. Been there, done it. God wasn't there. I didn't pray to God. God came from England and Spain. That's the British Bible, the Spaniard Bible. 1492 is when the Spaniards shoved that Bible down and raped the Indians and murdered them. First Thanksgiving that happened in this country. Oh, what was that? The Spaniards murdered the Indians at the Thanksgiving. They brought them in and murdered them all. How come people do not comprehend this? You can type in Indians murdered. When they brought the Bible over, we had to sit there and wipe the Indians out because it was the Christian thing to do. I'll put that movie back up on my Facebook sites that we have is New Oregon Trackers. I do have the unemployed United States, getting tongue twisted. Recall Kate Brown, the United States for Unemployed, the United States, God, I'm having a tongue twist. Sorry about that, folks, just the way it is right now today. But we got these Facebook sites up there. So, and I do put this stuff on my Facebook site would work. I put this stuff on these Facebook sites I have. There's a lot of stuff that I sent out, even some stuff I sent out today to people, and then all of a sudden I'm being knocked out for community standards. You can't say that, community standards, and it's like, excuse me, what? This is what the law is. So you're saying the law doesn't exist. So you got to remember, Facebook is still run by the Queen of England, and your Yahoo channel, if you know that your Yahoo email, and anybody who has Yahoo now knows that the Queen of England bought the Yahoo channel, so when you email in Yahoo, now Yahoo gets to decide if they want to send your email out or not. That just started the first of this year. Verizon is owned by the Queen of England, folks. See, that's the one thing you got to realize. The Queen of England owns a lot of this stuff. Ted Turner Production, he's from England. So we have the United States for America, elected and public employee sites up. Oh God, I hate it when my computer has a mind of its own. It's called the United States. It's called the United States for America, Republic, elected and public servants, oversights. So join the group. We'll get you into that group. I do post these laws up there. We have a lot of laws on that group, and if you want to go searching on that or new.Oregon Trackers, I have the laws and the files on these stuff. Some of them we do have videotapes of them up too, but we have videotapes on new.Oregon Trackers, our website. If you go on the website, we have a lot of videotapes up there walking you through some of this stuff. And then the other point is, don't forget you got the law, what is that, oh God, I'm brain for it, the law library we have, that we're in conjunction with the law club. So the law club, we have videos from the law club, and we know Mike we're involved with them, and so that's the whole point of getting this stuff up there. So we're involved with a lot of people, and all these groups out there are trying to sit there and go, you need to do this and you need to do that. First, you need to file your rights. Second one, don't give a shit about China and all these other countries, India right now. You know, oh, we got to save Canada. Wait a minute, you got to save yourself first. You know, and this class action lawsuit, folks, yeah, you can do a class action lawsuit, but the minute your district court throws it out, remember, your district courts are British courts. They're not federal courts. You have to file in the federal court. In the federal court, you have to see if he's got a contract to the Constitution. If there's no contract to the Constitution, there's no federal court. It's called, what do they call that? District court. District court is out of the Columbia District of Columbia. That's Section 8 of District of Columbia Administrative Rules. And you can type in Section 8, District of Columbia Rules, and it'll tell you. They get to decide. You're asking the Queen of England to do this. The ones who work for the Queen of England, you got to go to a Constitution court. And that is the one thing that you got to comprehend, what a Constitution court is. You know, the Constitution was founded by the Native Indian treaties. Once you realize that the Indian treaties are the law of this land, because remember, the Indian treaties is like the state of Oregon. All states have a treaty and a contract with what country? The British government. 1846, the state of Oregon has a contract and treaty with the British government. 1859, the original state contract when it went to a corporation until February 15th, 1959 or 1859, and then August 17th, 1859, when the state of Oregon went to a corporation. So you got to quote these things when you go to these courtrooms. You have to write in it where you're at, what your justification is, what your justification is. If you're a citizen, then you have to go by the corporation. If you're especially an immigrant, you have to go by the corporation. And that is the one thing that you need to comprehend when you're going by the corporation, of what your authority is. See, when you're native, you have rights. See, I mean, and this is the one thing that I was able to prove to so many people over the years, you know, because I had a couple good court cases that I did, and one on hemp. You know, because even I went after them even in the Bible. And their Bible says that marijuana is what God smoked. Their God. Says it in the Bible. How come people don't catch that? But see, that's the point. When people read the Bible, they want to interpret it just like a lawyer. You're not a lawyer. Lawyers are liars. They don't care about you. They don't care about your children. Remember, they make money off it. They make money off the birth certificate bond, and that's what they're claiming on the funding. And once you start comprehending how this system works compared to the things that you think it works, once you start comprehending who, what, why, and how, then this way you're going to start going a lot farther, because now you know the circumstances of how and why. You know, and see, this is the one thing. I always love this when people send me this stuff. Oregon Judicial Guide for Working with Relatives in Juvenile Court. All right, so you're going by administrative rules that you're asking permission for the court to do this. See, if you write your case in Oregon and you're writing the structure up and they're saying that you're relatives of the juvenile court, you're saying, well, no, this is my sister, my brother, my cousin, and I'm the injured man and woman. And remember, they're using the word person and caregiver. They, you know, and it's like, that's the one thing when you go to a doctor. Oh, yeah, who's your doctor? Who's your caregiver? Caregiver means you give up your right, because your caregiver is the one that gives you care, so they have the legal rights over you. You know, that's why everybody keeps going, well, I'll do, what do they call that? Hang on a minute, I'll come up with that in a minute. You know, there's legal terminology here. You know, give somebody the authority over me if I died or something like that.
Power of attorney.
Well, I know I was getting there, but thank you. But that's the main thing. Power of attorney, when you give somebody the power of attorney over you, remember, if you give it to them just plainly, they can file on you and take your assets and take it anytime. And I've dealt with people even this last year that signed power of attorneys, even with, their bookkeeper and other stuff. And then they wonder why they went in and took their $5 or $10 million from the family trust and stuff. And I'm like, you gave them power of attorney? Well, no, that was supposed to happen when we were dead or something. I said, no, you didn't write that. You didn't specify it in the power of attorney. I know, I read it. They sent me the paperwork. Several people did. I went through a lot of cases this last year on that. And I read these cases. I said, so where did you put it in here? Well, isn't that the way? And I said, no. Did you specify it? See, on a power of attorney, you have to say A, B, C, D, F. And if they violate this, this is why they go to jail. A, B, C, D, F. It's Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. It's called a contract. Power of attorney is a contract. And see, when you're giving the power of attorney over, you're still giving it over to somebody else. And see, it's really sucked because when the last relationship I had, we and my ex, we didn't do a paperwork of power of attorney. We did paperwork of ownership of each other. I own you, you own me. I embarrass you, you embarrass me. We didn't want to do that because we had to have respect for one another. Excuse me. Then I got crazy because, then she wanted to go to church because we were being attacked so much, and she didn't want to listen to me because it's like I'm telling her what these cops are doing, what they're doing, and why they're doing it, and it's like, but she didn't want to listen to me. And how are you supposed to defend a woman or stand up for her, even to, go knock these people out, which I didn't, and, you can't do it when, you have a breach in the contract, or the breach in the kink in the chain, See, this is the one thing, when you do these things, and when you're in a relationship and you read these terms, you have to stand up back 100%. And that's the same thing. You just don't change it. You don't, and main thing, don't lie and play games and, I didn't know about that. Everything has to be on the table so there's no, what do they call that? Conflict of interest. And let me get back to that because you want to put a conflict of interest to your judge, your attorney, your lawyer. When you go to these court hearings, DHS employees, you want them to fill a conflict of interest out because they get paid by the state corporation. That state corporation is coming from Washington, D.C., Title 8, Section 8 of Finances. The Secretary of Washington, D.C., controlled by the Vatican and the Queen of England. This is already a foreign structure. And see, this is the one thing that the Native American children covered by Indian Child Welfare Act. Remember, don't apply to that shit. You're Native. Don't give authority to the state. Never trust the governor. Never trust elected and public politicians, especially in the state of Oregon. I still know most of them. Not one of them stood up on this state when I even put the structure in. So I'm thinking I need to put a ballot title together on, that's right, what do they call that? The lottery funds. I already wrote it up, tried to get a Senate bill passed on that 20 years ago. But I think I might have to put it up to the ballot. 25% of all lottery funds go back to Native Americans and any illegal that claims to be a native in this country, or because illegals cannot collect funds in this country by law. They go to prison or they get shipped out to their country with $100 in their pocket, and that's the way I originally wrote the bill. And everybody in the Capitol and the Democrats and Kate Brown panicked on me when I put that bill in. Because it's our rights, not a privilege. That money that these people get is not to go to the Queen of England like they filter it. Your property taxes go to the Queen of England. I've got this filed in Lincoln County in the state. I've been fighting them on this since 2013 when I did that to, John Kitzhopper. And, but everybody, John Kitzhopper, his staff, after I filed the paperwork on that, everybody resigned. They had to make a deal with Kitzhopper. Poor John, yeah. I remember John when he was up at the Capitol. I know John remembers me. I sure Kulongoski remembers me, too, because Kulongoski, when he passed the rain bill, and I'm the one who went after that rain bill, told him how crazy he was with that rain bill. You know, that is the point. You know, I mean, you can't sit there and tell me that you own the rainwater. You know, and then they came up with administrative rules that says, okay, here's how we can get away with it. And I'm going to tell you how they were able to get away with it, because they're saying that, well, they own the rain because God reigns, you know. So then all of a sudden, then the other argument came, all right, you pay property taxes, so whatever rushes off the roof is yours. You know, but they don't, you know, they go after these things so that way they own you and own the circumstances. You know, and this is the one thing you got to realize when you're going into Article 3 courts or tribunal courts. Knowing what courtroom you're going into. That is one of the biggest things, that you need to know what court you're going into. You know, so you need to send a letter to that judge and ask him, what courtroom is this? What jurisdiction is this? I need to know how I need to proceed in these circumstances. See, that is the one. You need to put that in writing to these people. Because they sure the hell ain't going to tell you, because they don't give a shit about you, because rape, rob, and pillaging and the money's more important than you are. And once you realize that, you know, with their structure of the income and their money is more important than you are, you start winning. So, but anyhow, I've been going on a little longer than I planned on tonight, and so what we're going to do is go ahead and open the floor. I'll be posting some of this stuff back up on the YouTube channel after we're off tonight, and I'll get some other stuff posted on the YouTube channel on the children's structure. And I still got to get back to the utility commission, because I found a way to write off your water and electricity bill, but I got to confirm a little bit more onto it. And then once I get the other part of it done, then we'll get that posted up and start walking through that, because I'm not going to be like all these other people, and I don't want to get into names with all these people. You know, most of these people on the internet, most of these people, so many people even gave them money and never got anything done. And so I want to make sure when we're doing that, it goes through it. And also, too, to make sure that you're aware, China is doing a cover-up. It's not in the mainstream media. They're doing this. It came through another media outline that I got through some other ways, too, more than one way. But there's over 11 million people in China with a new virus that nobody knows what the virus is, and it's starting to die off. And there's no such vaccination that could even help them. So, I mean, this is a...
All participants are unmuted.
Go ahead. Anybody got a question?
You just mentioned the vaccine.
Go ahead.
There's no kind of bullshit with what they're saying. There is no cure.
Well, I wouldn't.
Is that John? John, are you going to speak up?
I wouldn't care.
Sounds like... So, anybody would like to add anything tonight?
Hey, Ed.
Yes, floor is yours.
Yeah, with this vaccine thing, I mean, it's something that the government put out, right?
The government put out on what?
That's causing these people to die off.
Well, they're not. The government ain't publicizing it, because we've got several new new diseases that are running around the country that they, I can't remember them right now. I'll be posting up here in a few days. That came over from the immigrants that came over from Saudi Arabia and the immigrants that came up from Mexico. And one of them is the plague that they have found in 7 states in the United States now is the plague.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they're not publicizing that at all. They got him in quarantine. And they proved it came from Mexico and Saudi Arabia.
And there's no cure for any of this stuff yet?
Has there ever been one for the plague? Didn't that kill England off one year? 1 century, I mean?
Killed off a lot more than just England.
Huh?
As I remember, I think it killed off more than just England. It went around the world.
Well, yeah, it did when people were going around. That's why they got them under quarantine right now. You know, and this is the one thing that I'll be passing to people, because if you know anybody's going through drug problems, you know, we have this conviction maintaining drug individual premises. And this is United States versus Joseph Spandorfer, Spadafore, and it's on the New Oregon Tracker website. It's on our website. Recall Cape Brown, even the American Underground Journalist. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that group, the American Underground Journalist, but I'm one of the writers at several groups that I do write for journals, and, you know, I try to keep my name out of a lot of that because, you know, I don't like to have the publicity myself, to tell you the truth, because I don't believe we should, you know. I don't want people to know everything I do. Just the way I am. You know. And I didn't even realize what Jeff's pulled up here.
Yeah, actually
So,
updated. There's 22
go ahead, speak up.
Actually updated. There's 22 people in quarantine now.
Okay, all right, got it. Thank you for the update.
So, yeah, I just want to say thanks. This is Chief.
Oh, hey, good to hear from you. Did you get the emails I sent you?
Yes, I did. That's why I wanted to, you know, I've been actually listening on the phone for the last couple of weekends because it's just easier, for one. For two, I can't thank you enough, Ed. Seriously, I can't thank you enough. And you know what we're going on with Virginia and the 2A and all that crap down here, which cracks me up because they're all concerned about their Second Amendment rights, but they don't give a crap about the rest of them. I mean, you can't pick one here and there. You got to just go for everything. I mean, that's what we're here for. Like you said, it's a we situation. It can't be just me, me, me. So, but yeah, I just want to, like I said, thank you so much because your information is just, I double check everything. You know, like you said, don't take my word for it. You know, you got to get out there for yourself. Now, the one thing I do want to know is, now on the conflict of interest, is there like a certain way to write a letter for them, or just, you know, can you email like the actual conflict of interest that you find? Like, I actually found the codes in Virginia in order to send to them. Plus, I'm getting ready to do my whole thing with the whole bizarre crap I got. So,
well, and there's two things. I sent you on the conflict of interest statement. Read those things, and also, too, correlate those to the conflict of interest statement that the bar has in the state.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you want to correlate, you want to go after the federal one over the state.
Okay.
Because people keep saying, well, the states have rights and all this stuff, and it's like, people don't get it. You want to go by the federal law, not the states, because the states are trying to separate themselves with, they've got groups, and I've been speaking against this, and including, what the hell is that group that's always on? Prager University.
Yeah.
Prager University, I keep going after them because they don't tell the whole facts, because they're a democracy structure of a nonprofit agency, and they're still running under the Queen of England. And, I mean, I've nailed them on some of the bullshit that they publicize and some of the bullshit that they put on these YouTube channels. And they get upset with me, and I say, hey, why don't you hire me as a professor then? Tell the real truth of the country. I mean, you're not even talking the truth about the Native Indians and what the real truth is, because the Constitution the Indian treaties supersede the Constitution, and without both the Constitution and Indian treaties, none of us have rights.
Exactly. And then I don't know if they've updated or not, but one that I found, it's actually said that the Supreme Court upheld that the states are no longer sovereign, only the people are. So,
well, yeah, and that's the whole point. The states have never been sovereign because they were a corporation when they came into effect in the 1850s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and remember, go back to the original 13 colonies, where most people try to run me back to. And I said, okay, you want to go back to the 13 colonies? And I said, let's go back to the 13 colonies. Now, remember, the 13 colonies were still run and controlled by the British government before it was separated. So when it was separated, who took the ownership of it?
Right, and if you actually look up on it's Family Search, which is run by the LDS, you look up on Family Search and you go back in the history, it'll actually say, like, British Columbia or British colonies of Maryland, British colonies of Virginia, British colonies of Philadelphia. I mean, it goes all the way like to Massachusetts. Most of my family actually came back from about 11 generations of those sides to this land. So, you know, that's why.
No, and you have that information, you know.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing. You can actually get it off of them. It's kind of a pain, but what isn't? So.
Well, no, I know that. I mean, Chief Black Cloud, that's where I've been going through this stuff, trying to get people to comprehend, and if we could get the kids to start comprehending their bloodline and their heritage and stop playing these games, we could actually save this country faster than what's going on.
I know but it's hard to get them because they're so ingrained into the dumbing down and the common core thought process. You see, that's
the other point that is so dumbed down is that, we don't need to grow food and collect rainwater. We just go to a grocery store.
Well, and then, you almost got to, pray to the great creator that the water's okay because all the chemtrails are dropping on us, which they've kind of cornered that one because they blocked it off because a guy in Florida sued for the chemtrails being spread over and won $3 million out of the state of Florida for it. Yeah.
So, well, actually, that was supposed to be going national. And that was the one thing I'm glad to hear because I didn't hear he actually won the case because they were trying to do a class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
And I told them, don't do that. You got everybody file separately because one guy wins, everyone wins because they can't deny everybody who won.
Well, what happened was one of them split off. He took your suggestion, he split off, and he did it on his own. So they awarded him $3 million, and now the rest of them are lined up. But you know how that goes. The minute you start lining up, the courts start dodging you.
Well, but see, if everybody would have filed theirs at the same time, individually, instead of waiting to see what happened.
Exactly.
And that's what I was explaining to people, but nobody wanted to hear me when I was explaining that to them. And it's like, once you do this, and now that everybody's chasing the goat now, is the way I look at it. Everybody's chasing the goat now, and if everybody was lined up at the trough would have been filled.
Yeah, it would have been a domino effect. They didn't realize that. I tried to explain it to because I'm from Florida, born there. Well, whatever. But yeah, it was just really kind of messed up. And then, the one guy was like, well, I'm just going to break off because you're saying it, Ed's saying it, I've got 3 or 4 other people saying it. I was like, well, then you kind of go with the crowd there a little bit, and he did, and he actually won. So, and they actually paid out, which was kind of ironic. I didn't expect that. But
I'm glad the comp control paid out, so if I get that information, I would love that one. A couple other ones in Florida.
Yeah, that's the interesting one. I've got to find it again because you know how that happens. You get it, and the next thing you know, it disappears from the online, and then it's got to be reposted. So, or you got to, trace the ghost, I guess, is what I call the ghost of the machine. So, but like I said, brother, I am just so thankful for your help. I really am. I'm trying to get people to get on to, I've turned on probably about 24 of my friends onto your website because it's like, look, just go there and start reading. That's the only way you're going to do this because one thing leads to another, just like the song. Once you start checking out stuff, it's not just one thing you're going to see in their statutes and codes. There's like 100 of them. It's like a side effect, but at the same time, the more you educate yourself, the more you understand these things. They're scared of us in these in the courtrooms we're dealing with down here.
Oh, no, trust me. I got another associate of mine down there that's got him terrified, too, in the courtroom. When he walks in, they like to run out of the buildings.
Yeah, they won't even speak to us now. It's become a star chamber. They won't speak to us. They keep throwing paperwork at us, and it's just like, seriously, we came to have a meeting of the minds, but if we can't have a meeting of the minds because obviously you don't have one, what can I say? And it's just really sad. One of the judges down here, she told me, well, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I was like, so you're threatening people for the last 25 years?
Oh yeah. So that wouldn't be the former state attorney general, would it?
No. And then the ironic thing is the state attorney general here, and one of the people that works for him is actually a guy that I coached, and he flunked the bar 6 times. Finally got it on the last one, but he flunked it 6 times. And they called him, and he said, oh, no, I can't have nothing to do with it. We have a problem there. And they're like, why? He said, my mother and his mother used to go to movies together every week, so I can't really do anything for you here. So he recused himself.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the former state attorney general somehow escaping my mind because I filed charges on her with so many other people. And that's when she finally resigned 16 months ago, or just not that long ago. And I've been trying to get the other people to file the criminal charges because I'm not in Florida. I already filed what I could file, but the only ones that can file the criminal charges are the injured parties of the state.
Right. That's the messed up part. The other one is, but people are listening to you, because if you actually go on to YouTube and you look up some of the Vice stuff, Audit the Audit, and a few of the others, people are putting in their stuff and they're winning. They're winning their cases, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, in mine, you know, we're shooting for the whole wad because the entire thing was done publicly before I was even actually into the court. So they actually tainted everything, not including there's the one out by the FBI that says that if you hear anything about these sovereigns, they're sovereign citizens, which is just an oxymoron because you can't be one or you have to be one or the other. You can't be both. Except for there is one guy out in the Midwest there that keeps claiming he's a sovereign citizen, and I'm like, you're just screwing yourself.
You're not talking about the guy in Florida, are you?
No, there's a guy out in Midwest that's doing one. He's like a former, both his boys were in the military, and he's out in the Midwest, and he does one on YouTube himself where he's talking about sovereign citizens, and I'm like, you can't say that. You've got to just say sovereign. You know, people don't understand that. If you include anything in it, they're going to try to, they even used it against me here in court. They said I was a sovereign citizen. I said, I never say to that. Can you show me the proof? Mm-hmm. Trust me, I'm getting thrown out of courts now because of it. It's like they do not want to hear this stuff, and it's because it breaks their chain. We were actually even threatened by the bailiff in the court. So.
Well, see, that's the one mistake I did because I was following all that shit, doing the research at one point on a sovereign citizen, and that's how I got screwed around in court a couple of times. And until I actually did the research, and I went, "What an idiot I am!"
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to go through that experience, though.
Listening to these other idiots, and most of these idiots on Facebook are lawyers doing this to keep the system going.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I showed you that one. I sent you the top line where it says, to the adult, which is in nom de guerre, because it's all in uppercase, we have the right to sentence you to death or kill you. And it was just like, really? She's been doing this for 5 years. You don't cross this out. So I sent them a rescind letter on anything that I signed, plus it was done by coercion and by force. I don't think anybody can actually sign normally with a pair of handcuffs and shackles on. And
well, no, that's called under duress.
Exactly. So it's like, and then anything you look up on contract law when it comes to that, it states right then and there, you can't do this. But they don't want to follow that. It's like they want to pick their own set of little game rules.
Right.
And they want to toss out the rest. And you've got to bring them back around. So, like I said, brother, I just can't thank you enough.
Well, see, it's like I have fun when I go in the hospital, too, because when they want me to register, and now they got these little plaids that they want you to scribble on these computer scrabs now without paper. And I look at them, I said, I'm under duress. I can't do that. Do you have a hard copy? If you don't print me a hard copy, I can do it in blood. That doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, and then the other one is when they call you on a outstanding bill, or you owe something now. They call and they go, is this so and so? And if you say yes, they think you've contracted.
Right.
I had to deal with this with my aunt, and I got the phone away from her, and the woman's like, yeah, well, who's this? And I said, this is her nephew. And she goes, well, she has to give me permission to talk to you. I said, no, she doesn't. I can talk to you just like we're talking now. And she goes, no, I can't talk to you. I go, why can't you talk to me? And she says, well, it doesn't matter. She already told me who she was. I said, no, she didn't. She said, yes. How do you know she's not hard of hearing? And I went down a whole list, and she's like, just out of curiosity, are you recording this? And I said, of course, we record everything. They were gone. And that's a good way to get them. When they say anything about anything, well, just pause and say, well, hold on, let me go ahead and record this. 9 out of 10 will hang up immediately.
Oh, yeah. I always love it when they call me up and they say, this is a recorded conversation. I said, okay, I need a copy of the recorded conversation so we can file it in the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
And just like you said, they go
like crickets. You'll hear crickets right after that, or just a good click.
Yeah.
It's like, really? You guys don't want to talk to me anymore?
Yeah.
I'm all bummed out. I'm going to lose sleep over this.
Well, I always love it when I get all these contractors calling me up, and sometimes I go off on them and I use verbal language on them. Yeah, they're like, and I've always loved the ones that like to hang on. You can't talk to me that way. And I said, what do you mean I can't? I did.
Well, no, and the sad part is my cousin, I went in for her because it was a case against a bank, and we found a fraudulent situation. And she stood up because, you know, you have the right to counsel, but it doesn't say that it has to be a lawyer. Okay, and they don't want to follow that rule either. And he says, you can't speak English? She goes, I speak English fine. I just don't speak what you guys speak. He does. And he looked at me and goes, what is that? I said, it's called legalese.
Right.
Very fluent in it. And, boy, we were out the door. They do not want to talk to people down here. They just want to go by the Star Chamber aspect, and I've pretty much bombarded their emails and whatnot with this stuff, and they're not happy. I'm just waiting for the knock at the door.
Oh, no, I'm the same way. I've been through that. I mean, I just went off today. I went over because me and the dog took a walk down the deal because I'm trying to keep my lungs still going because of my lungs failure. And so we went down the city a little bit, and we stopped by the meat market. And I just went off on a couple people in there. I just don't know why, but it was like somebody said something about the city, and I went off because the mayor tried to have me murdered. I've got him on record 2006 to the present day, still involved. And so, and I filed all this stuff with the federal government and everybody, and it's like, so now I'm getting ready to filing the criminal charges, and then I'm doing something. I decided, I'm waiting for the paperwork. I decided I'm going to throw my name in for county commissioners, de jure. Because the last time I ran for de jure mayor of my town, Toledo, I actually paid for the ballots to be handed out. That cost me $3,000 with the paper articles and everything. And they had to autograph the ballot and send it in to the clerk because I was going as de jure, not corporation. And so when I called in, I know several hundred people told me that they sent it in to the clerk for Dana Jenkins in Lincoln County. And when I called Dana up, I said, well, I'm waiting to hear the verdict. He goes, well, we never received anything.
Yeah. Maybe how that happens. That's
Maybe, yeah, because, see, de jure, that means I could have took over and I could have stopped the banknotes.
Yeah.
And they know I'm smart enough to know. I mean, I've been in this county since 1989. And I got my neck broken in 1988, and I got my neck broken in '89. I was in a bar fight. It was 5-on-1. I was the bouncer in the bar, policy officer. I used to be a rent-a-cop. I know how it all works too. And so I was a policy officer in the bar, and I got my neck broken. And then instead of me getting my disability, they waited until the state went on workman's comp system in 1993. So that way they didn't have to pay out and put me on the government system, and I was pissed because we should have went to court, and we go to court, but they were waiting to hold off so they could put me under the corporation system so they didn't have to pay, and that's what they're doing today in each and every state.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to pull down here. The funny part is at least the cop that yanked me out of the car, and I think two others plus one attorney down here have all left. They're no longer on the corporational payment situation, and they no longer work for the law enforcement agency. So, and
no, I've got a few that lost their credentials too.
Yeah, and that's the funny part about it is he hasn't shown up, and it's just like, then why are we even here? You know, and how come you haven't arrested him? And really, what happened to my paperwork?
Well, no, the reason why they haven't is because you didn't write the charges on them.
Yeah. That's the problem. Well, we did.
We did that up here in Oregon. We did that to former Chief Don Dennison at Toledo Police Department, and we got him literally convicted of 21 out of 2 charges. We stripped him of all of his credentials. We were working on sending him to go to jail, and so what did he do? He moved to Florida.
Well, we have relatives down there, and one of them's a film crew expert. We might have to make a phone call for you.
Yeah.
I have no qualms about that.
Well, see, after when he got so publicly humiliated, his children and his wife divorced him, and his children want nothing to do with him.
Well, I don't blame him there.
Oh, well, we went after him because the son of a bitch went and destroyed my relationship with the mayor and stuff. I was blunt. I said, let's step out in the street. I mean, I've got newspaper articles with me when it comes to cops. Let's step out in the street. Let's do it the Western day.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't do that, you're crazy. And then they're trying to say you threatened me. And I said, no, I'm not threatening you. I told you exactly what I'm going to do.
Well, and then another one, like the one I pulled on the second one, was it was state trooper. He's driving me down to the clink. You know, from the whole thing balls into one snowball effect situation because it's attached to the first police officer that's no longer here. And while we're riding down there, I turned and looked at him straight up. I said, if they told you to kill me, you'd do it, wouldn't you? No comment. I believe that's silent acquiescence, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So, you know, and I can't it's like they still won't stop. They keep sending the paperwork and we keep denying it. We actually did try to file the charges. The problem is they won't accept the paperwork.
No, you don't file it there. You have to file it in Washington, D.C. in the federal courts. And what do they call that? Washington
Department of Justice and,
under
oh, you mean the district? The District of Criminals?
Yes. For criminals, when you file with them, they have to respond because if they lose their budget, that means everybody loses their job.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've done that. I've been involved in several police departments across the country who have actually shut down. And when a police department shuts down, they can no longer try to restart up again.
Well, one of the things that happened up here was 22 of them in Front Royal left.
I comprehend that one.
They told them straight up, you have to go out and take the guns away from these people. And they said, absolutely not. And really it turned out that some of them were also relatives that they were going to have to go after. So 22 walked off the force. People are waking up. They're waking up. You know, and anytime I can pass your stuff along, brother, I'm on it. You know, I mean, people need to hear it. The Second Amendment people have a lot of your videos.
Go ahead.
So, you know, basically the Second Amendment people down here, I sent plenty of your videos down. There's another one where they actually talked to a guy, he's former Navy. He was in Richmond, and he pretty much just handled 2 of them very well from the state. I mean, he was really good, cool, calm, and collected. You can't get out of control. You have to stay cool, calm, and collected.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones that usually get out of control. That's what happened down here. So,
well, you want to push their buttons so they do get out of control, but you have to stay calm and collective.
yeah, well, we're actually having we used to work down on the hill, my cousin and I, and we have to go down and have a little chat, a little sit-down powwow. That's what we're headed for. And that will be with the DOJ and a few others down there. And if anybody needs any help, you know, we're not that far away. So we can help out in any which way, shape, or form. You know, if we have to have it sent here so that you make sure that it gets in there, we'll do something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. Let me take a break here for a minute. Let's see if anybody else would like to chime in, if anybody else would like to speak up.
Oh, I'm good, brother.
Anybody else would like to speak up?
If I may.
Ed, May.
Hi, this is Kerry on Utah. I just wondered if you could text me your contact information, Ed. There's some, I'd like to converse a little bit about a couple of things, if you don't mind.
No problem, but I don't do cell phones. I don't text. Are you on FB, Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on a cell phone. Let's see. How's the best way for me to contact you then?
Well, do you have my email or my number?
I have this conference number, but I don't have any others.
Okay, you are familiar with my Facebook site, Oregon Trackers?
New Oregon Trackers?
Yeah, NEW, new, .Oregon, OREGON, Trackers, TRACKERS.
Okay.
And we do have a link on that, and if you're on Facebook, I'm Edward Johnston on Facebook with a white a white teddy bear with a red rose.
Okay. JONSTON?
Yeah, and if you email me or send me a message on FB, I'll send you my number and the way you get a hold of me, because I sometimes I give my information out, but I literally sometimes can get hundreds or 1,000 emails a day, and it's like, who's telling what truth, and, sometimes I don't want to sit there for 4 weeks going through everybody's emails.
I hear that. Okay.
Because most people ain't telling you anything, they're just trying to throw filler in for, just filler in for whatever they're trying to trying to slow the issue down.
Okay, I'll send you a friend request. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, send me a friend request. We'll get caught up, and then also too, the other way to contact me is on the Recall Kate Brown on Facebook. I do have the New Oregon Trackers on Facebook, as well as the United States for Elected Employees Oversight Committees, Republic Oversight Committees, and Civil War of 1886. That's on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, it'll just be a plain name, Kerry Lund, and a picture of a motorcycle on there. So I'll send you a friend request. Thanks, Ed.
All right. Yeah, because I mean that's the whole thing. If people don't realize, when the Civil War happened with the British government, World War I, we fought the British government. World War II, we fought the British government with Nazi Germany. And remember, Nazi Germany in World War II and British government were still the same. And then if you look at the United Nations today in 1947, when that was formed, the United Nations and the British Nazi Germany still owns it. And the chancellor for Germany is Adolf Hitler's daughter. Isn't that interesting? So, and believe me, Adolf Hitler never died in the bunkers. They proved he was alive, and his daughter even slipped out and admitted it about 10 or 12 years ago. Because he didn't die until, what was that, 78, 82.
Yeah, in Argentina.
So you know what I mean then.
Yep.
So but this is the one thing that, like I said, people just believe this shit on the internet all the time. I mean, I've had people argue with me, trying to tell me, this ain't the law, this is what it is, and then I send them stuff, or I send them the actual law, and I said, prove me wrong, and then all of a sudden they don't want to talk to you. And that's the other point. And remember, and I do have a videotape that we have up that I put up too, and this is dealing on my personal website and the other ones. And this is the United States Court of Appeals, Ninth Circuit. Now, I do have Ninth Circuit Court videos now because I'm on the Ninth Circuit Court structure, so they send me their videos and updates and stuff because I filed a lot of criminal complaints on the judges in the Ninth Circuit Court on immigration, because I filed on the Ninth Circuit Court judges when they were doing the immigration acts on domestic terrorism, because they committed treason, and illegals and immigrants have absolutely no rights in this country whatsoever. They absolutely have no rights, and that was even done by the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was never, ever passed, nor was it ever ratified. And so people got to realize that. That's like when they say, we can collect taxes, and the 16th Amendment was ratified. The 16th Amendment was never ratified. In the original 16th Amendment, when that was put in place in 1931, was that they were to, or 1929, was to tax $500,000 at 7%. Anything under that $500,000 could not be taxed. And I do have that information. If anybody wants that, I'll actually send you the actual factual information on that. And then I wrote what was it? I think it was 29-page deal right behind that, explaining with all the history of it. So, and I do have this stuff written, and some of it's anywhere from 17 to, I think the longest one I have is 52 pages. And I go through and I put all the history together, try to do it in chronicle order, with a couple of my comments, but I try to let people actually read the actual paperwork, what they wrote, because like I said, on this talk show, they wrote it, we quote it. And that is the one thing. And you got to file the criminal charges. See, that's the one thing people don't realize, that on the clerk, on the officer, on the judge, you have to file the criminal charges because you are the man or woman of the injured party. And that is the way it really works. And if you're not the injured party, the only way the other injured party can do that is when as a family member personally involved. Or if you do a power of attorney to a relative or friend. But like I said, power attorneys, I had many people try to say, sign me a power of attorney, Ed, we'll protect you. I've watched many people sign power of attorneys over to many people, and I watched them lose their homes, their bank accounts, their assets. So be very, very careful who you trust with a power of attorney, because the judges don't give a shit because they get paid a commission Every time a power of attorney is passed through the courtroom, remember, they get paid a commission for every power of attorney. They ain't going to tell you that, but they get paid a commission. So usually it's 7% of whatever somebody's collecting. It's 7% the judge gets, and it's total 25%, and then the other percentage goes into the judge's retirement fund. That's collectively for all United States judges. So, and of course, they're not going to tell the general public this stuff and what they have and all this stuff. But see, like I said, I was fortunate the way I was brought up because I grew up and then I spent a lot of years around public employees, and so I just shut up and listened in the background. I watched this crazy shit happening. I learned from this stuff. I learned what was going on. And that's the point, you know, and that's the point that I'm glad I'm able to bring out and walk people through. You know, because if it ain't for us doing it, nobody else sure the hell is going to do it. So, yeah, I just got your request, so I'll get you the information. I'm going to confirm you right now. Then I'll send you some other information that'll shock the shit out of you. You know, because like I said, when they wrote it, we quote it. We go by facts. We do not go by hearsay. Hearsay is inadmissible in court, and we are not lawyers or doctors or attorneys. We are average men and women, and we ain't playing the game of protecting one of their kind. You know, and if you got a medical issue, I do have the structure, how to sue a hospital, because you have to sue a hospital as a board member, and this is the other thing we've gone through in a couple of other talk shows, so this way you comprehend that all police departments, all police officers, attorneys, judges, doctors, each and every one of them are registered as a non-profit agency or agent. And the main thing is that we file your paperwork. I suggest and recommend everybody who does that, recommend you always put in House Resolution or the 1938 Fair Act, the Foreign Registration Administration Act. So I always recommend that you put that in your writings, in your court cases. You want to make sure the judge is registered and filed. You always want to file it with the State Departments on it, with the Department of Justice. You always want to do that. You know, because you want to do that. You always want to prove that. You know, and then United States for Concealed License Permit, I've been having fun with them because, you know, they're going out and pushing the new concealed license permit. They keep calling me, trying to get me to go along or support their programs. And I keep telling them, I have a constitution. I don't need a concealed license permit. I don't need permission from the Queen of England. You know, but the one major point is that when it comes to your public officials, your officers, your sheriff deputies, your sheriff, you always want to register and file to see if they got a concealed license permit. And if they don't file on them immediately, they'll lose their job because by law, by their law, they have to have a concealed license permit to have their credentials to be in office. That is their administrative rules, and it's by every state Department of Justice, they have to have it. But they're not going to tell you that because, you know, the rule is you got to protect your own. You know, I was fortunate enough, I didn't get that deep where I sold my soul to the company store. But I was close a couple times, but I had a conscience. You know, so that's just the way it is. So, but anybody else got any thoughts or questions right now at this point?
Yeah, I got one.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the case. Was it Therese versus Cohen?
Okay, I gotta remember which one. What was that pertaining to?
I think it was. Might have been on the conflict of interest.
Okay, that'd probably be about right. And go ahead. What was your question?
Oh, I was just wondering, Therese, did I have that party right, and how to spell it maybe?
I'll pull it up. Are you on my Facebook list?
No, but you did email me some stuff, which I also want to thank you for. And,
you're the other. You're in Arkansas, aren't you? The guy in Utah.
Colorado.
Okay. And so many. Yeah. Didn't I email you the structure on the conflict of interest statements?
You did, and I'm still reading. You mailed me a bunch of stuff. I'm still reading through it. So.
Hey, 'cause I buried a lot of knowledge.
Okay, so that case will probably be in there then.
Yeah, if you have the conflict of interest statement, that's all in that one page. I think that should be 2 pages long with all the conflict of interest with judges, cops, attorneys, DCH, caseworkers, and all that.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay, it's all right.
And if it's not, tell me back. And like I said, I think, and I don't know if you have my number or not, if I gave you my number when I emailed you, but you can always email me back, ask me questions, I'll get back to you. And if you send me your number with the email, I'll call you and we'll go through it.
Very good, thank you.
No problem, because we can't be ashamed or embarrassed of what we're doing. You know, it's like, that's the one thing, you know, there's a lot of these guys out there that have done any of these court cases, you know, and I mean, I still couldn't believe, you know, like, you know, and I'll be blunt, with some of the stuff with the Bundys, me and Mike School wrote a lot of cases for them several years back. They didn't want to go through, and it's like, they're hiring lawyers that are doing this, and it's like they weren't claiming to be the injured man or woman. And then they're wondering why things were why things drug on, because they if claiming to be the injured man or woman. They didn't claim their children or grandchildren were harmed or injured. And see, that's the point. You have to claim the injury. Because if you don't claim the injury does not exist. And see, you cannot, a district attorney, like I said, a district attorney, a clerk, a cop, they cannot file claims. And I have the administrative rules and the laws, including the updated one that was just done in 2017 that says a cop cannot file a claim. So once you comprehend that these guys don't have these authorities or abilities, and when they go to court claiming something, they are financially, and I do have the information, they are financially liable with their own homes, with their own assets, their jewelry, their firearms, whatever they have. That's why Minnesota and Illinois' state attorney generals came out to the police departments 6 or 7 years ago and made a publicly announcement to the people inside, all the elected and public employees, that make sure that you have no assets in your name. And they publicly stated that very heavily inside the buildings. And I was fortunate enough that somebody sent me one of their emails, and they were telling everybody that, you know, make sure you have nothing in your deal, because if you ever get, they come after your personal assets, they can't go after you because they have nothing there. And this is the other way how they're getting arrested. You know, it's like the craziness. We just went with the Democrats, so we don't even know how much they spent on this damn crap they went after Trump on, because they were doing this because part of the reason Trump didn't bow to the Queen of England. He stubbed his nose at the Queen of England, if everybody watched what happened on national TV 2 years ago. So the Queen was very pissed, and there was comments that came out of the monarchy to go after Trump because they didn't show respect to the Queen. Well, it's the Queen of England. It ain't my queen. You know, the only time I had a queen was the one I used to sleep with, and that was the only queen in my house. So that Queen of England ain't my queen. Neither is her Bible, neither is her religion. And also, too, in 2013, for those who don't know, I'm the one who filed, that went national, that I filed on the Vatican, the Pope, the clergy, and the Queen of England. I filed on all their souls under their own administrative rules under sewer and water. And that made a little national headline, and everybody didn't catch it, but I filed on their souls because that's what they do to us. So I figured, hey, they wrote it, might as well quote it. So they wrote the game, might as well just have fun with them. And they don't expect people to comprehend that this is a game that they wrote and that what was really going on. So anyhow, I've got something I'd like to chime in on.
That sounds like the thing Anna says she did.
Yeah, but be careful of Anna. She is not a judge. She's got a lot of people that have had issues. I've verified. I know Anna. I've never met her personally, but I've talked to her for many years. We still have contact, but when she was trying to claim Alaska judge, I had a conversation with the clerks and the judges, and they had their opinion of Anna very strongly. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And then with her package that she puts out to have you to write off your bills, there's someone where she's got trouble for that. So just be very careful. That's the best I can say with that one. You know, she does come up with some good stuff, but just be careful with the information and verify it. You know, if that makes sense to you.
Absolutely.
And so, and we do have it, and I'll get it posted on title the IRS 1099 form. There's a few other forms that I found, and I'm working with the Utility Commission of Oregon to set up to write off the water, electricity, and water bill for Native Americans. And Native Americans, not just Indian, but see, we're not supposed to pay our water and electricity bill if you're Native, and that goes back to the 1933 Bankruptcy Act from the British King of England's bank. The bankruptcy, they went bankrupt to we the people. This country is not in debt, and the national debt that you watch get racked up is what England owes the people. And actually, I have that paperwork. It should be on the website, too. And if you email me, I'll send you the actual paperwork that states it from the British government and how it works. Because I've got that quoted, and I published it, and you know, and if you want, like I said, if you send me your email, I'll bury you with about 13 major emails with a whole bunch of facts that'll take you probably a year to go through it all, but better for you to have in your record, and I'll walk you through the real facts of the country compared to what we've been led to believe, and including on the 13th and 14th Amendment, because I do have the stuff on the 14th Amendment. I'm still waiting for a certified copy from Washington, D.C. itself, but I do have the structure on the 13th Amendment that lawyers cannot be, and attorneys and clerks cannot be in the courts or be, especially elected and public employees like Kate Brown in our state is. And I do have criminal treason charges filed on Kate Brown and state of Oregon in dealing with that myself, and I was trying to get the other people that have gone through the harassment they went through in Oregon, and then a couple of the deaths that happened in Oregon, trying to get their families to do it, but they don't get it. And if they would file the criminal charges and file it in Washington, D.C., because the state attorney general in the state of Oregon sleeps with Kate Brown, so she's going to protect Kate Brown. You know, like I said, I've been around the House and Senate for, you know, there's a lot of things that when you go around and you start paying attention what's really going on compared to what people think it is, if that makes logical sense. You do it in your own community, so you know what I mean. So, but yeah, no, and like I said, just double check your information. Even when I send you stuff, double check it. Don't take my word for it. Check it, because I mean, I check my own stuff when I send out stuff, and especially when I file criminal charges on these people. You know, I got to double check to make sure what I'm doing, because if I ever get questioned in the courtroom, to know my foundation, you know, so that's the whole point. And so, and the coronavirus in the United States has reported already 56 deaths, as one guy already reported. I think that was a chief. And so, and like I said, there's, you know, they're bringing these diseases in, and don't forget that Microsoft's owner is part of that. He already had contamination in Africa that was proven, oh God, 6 or 7 years ago. NBC was going to write the story on it, and the reporters and the producer was let go when they were going to run it. So, it is interesting what's really going on compared to what we think it is. So, but any other thoughts? Okay, with that, the ones that sent me your emails, I'll send you my email. I'll send you all the other stuff we got on the line. So I'll make sure you get the emails of this stuff, so that way you get the stuff that you can research. And most of the stuff that we get, and basically almost everything we get, they wrote it, we quote it because it comes from Congress, Senate, House. They are administrative bills. And I've shipped out too, and I put up on our Facebook walls the other day. And don't forget, the state of Oregon passed a cloning bill, like most states did, so that way they could clone you. So they can own you, and that's the point. If you have to file to own yourself, that's why in your birth certificate, bond, and insurance structure, you definitely want to file to own yourself. And I can send you the letter that I think, I don't know where it's on our deal, but you send me that, and I'll send that and a couple of the email links to the people that just sent me their stuff, the ones I did accepted your friends on. I'll send you what I put in the newspapers and what I got filed in the Oregon State House and Senate. So that way you can see what I did. And I always recommend when you file your paperwork, file it with the State House and Senate, the Secretary of State. Most of all, file it with your museums, local and state, because museums can only keep lawful records. Museums cannot have anything that is on a hearsay base. That's the structure and the main foundation of museums throughout the United States. They cannot have anything of hearsay structure. So with that, one more time, anybody else like to add anything? Well, with that, we'll call it an evening, and I will get back to people over the week. You have my information. If you got my Facebook, I'll send you the other stuff. You'll get my number. We'll talk, then we'll get back together next Saturday, same time. And when you got questions, you get a hold of me, and then we'll bring them up next week. The stuff that we talked about tonight, they will be put on eventually on the YouTube channel, on Oregon Trackers YouTube. So just like I do every week, it'll take me probably sometimes 24 hours to get everything posted up on the YouTube channel. That way you can go through the Oregon Trackers YouTube. You'll see everything time we talk with the information on it. I post it up, and I'll retrack down the bond and issues of how to write off the property tax and everything, and which I am filing on the state of Oregon, because by the state of Oregon, we are not the property tax by their own administrative rules. So the only way it's going to happen is we start protecting ourselves. That's the only way it's going to happen. And see, you have to prove you're native. You are native, then you have rights. If you're an immigrant, you have to go by immigration standards, and then that's knowing those standards and rights when you go to court. And see, they don't want the general public to be knowledgeable and educated on this stuff whatsoever. So once you get totally knowledgeable, it's like Chief Black Cloud said, they start running from you. You know, they do that to me. It's interesting because, you know, I mean, I don't even go into a public building anymore because I'm tired of them running out and I never get anything done, so I do everything certified mail. Do stuff. Things are just handled. It's the best way I can say it. So with that, we'll call it an evening, and we'd like to thank everybody for joining us. And may the Creator and the Great Spirits, and most of all, Mother looks over you, because without Mother, we don't have children, we don't have food. Without the Great Spirit, we don't have